Now, the co-founder of the German campaign, Repatriate Our Gold, is Mr. Peter Beringer. The German Precious Metals Society and the European Taxpayers Association and other organizations came together to persuade Germany's Bundesbank to repatriate 300 tons of gold from the United States and 374 tons from France. Mr. Beringer is on the telephone from Munich, Germany right now. Peter, welcome to True News.
Good evening, Rick. Thank you for having me here as an interview guest.
Yes, sir. We're glad to have you. I've been reading about you for the past year, so this is my first opportunity to talk to you personally. Before we talk about Switzerland, let's talk about your campaign in Germany that succeeded partially in getting the German central bank to at least ask for its gold back. For our listeners who don't know the full story, give them a brief synopsis of why and how the campaign came together.
That's right, I can do that. Even though you summed up the current story pretty nicely, I have to go back a little further than that. Actually, Bundesbank indeed announced a partial and way too slow repatriation plan in early 2013, as you had explained. The story actually started a lot earlier than that, and we had quite something to do with that. The problem goes back some 50 years. Germany earned that gold in the 1950s and 1960s in the course of the Bretton Woods monetary system, which was a partially gold-backed system due to our export surpluses. That's when the gold actually came on the balance sheet of Deutsche Bundesbank. But for many decades, nobody bothered a lot because there were military reasons for not repatriating the gold. It stayed in New York, in London, and in Paris, where it had been from the very beginning in the 1960s. So nobody was complaining about that. There were, I would say, plausible military reasons for not storing it in Frankfurt, which was close to the borderline of the Cold War. Germany was divided up until 1990, and even after 1990, not too many people actually asked the questions, but this changed because that military reason was gone. So since approximately 1998, I would say, a few people started asking, where is our gold? Why is it not in Germany? Why is it not being repatriated? Does it actually need to be remain at the Fed, at the Bank of England? After all, it's materialized work of the 1960s. It's our national property. It's money without counterparty risk. It is it represents sovereign power, so it should remain in the nation to whom it belongs. That holds true for almost all nations. But Deutsche Bundesbank arrogantly denied all questions, and there were thousands of them from concerned citizens, from petitioners, individual petitioners that is, and also from members of parliament. They didn't give out any details. We didn't know anything about all of this we're talking about today up until 2011, I would say. Bundesbank did not give out any information, and we didn't even know where our gold was stored exactly. And we didn't know how much already was in Germany. I'm cutting the story short a little bit now, but we, that is the European Taxpayer Association, also the German Taxpayer Association, a huge organization, together with my German Precious Metal Society, a not-for-profit organization, we teamed up in 2011 because we were fed up by those non-answers by Deutsche Bundesbank. And were the first ones to actually do a public campaign, an internet campaign, but not only internet. We did some classical media work from the very beginning too, but that was all in German. You didn't hear a lot about that. That was all in German language for quite some time. We had a slow time going. It was difficult to get going, but the German media was completely against us. It was a fight against Bundesbank from the very beginning. First they ignored us, then they ridiculed us, and according to Gandhi, then they fought us. And they actually do that to this very day. We were called conspiracy theorists just for asking questions that I believe are very normal and rational questions. And it took quite some time. And I must say that the foreign media from all over the world was much more responsive from the very beginning towards our cause than the national media, because they are so loyal here towards Deutsche Bundesbank, and they are sacrosanct, if you can say that. Deutsche Bundesbank will never be questioned or criticized, and implicitly we did that, even though all we did was asking questions. Please tell us, where is our gold? Give us evidence for a proper audit, and if that is not possible, especially not possible that the foreign vaults, then let's please repatriate the gold. And that the international media was much more responsive. I can give you, probably 20 or 30 foreign news outlets which reported on us, most of them neutrally or positively. In Germany, we also almost completely had negative press for quite some time. And that only changed when the public pressure was just became too strong, and Deutsche Bundesbank was first forced to give out a few details. For the first time in 50 years, they told the world and the German citizens, the owners of the gold, where the gold was. It's 3,400 tons. More than 70% was abroad. That's what we learned in fall of 2012. And when pressure was increased by us and by especially the foreign media, then in early 2013, as you have explained, Bundesbank announced a partial repatriation plan, a mere 700 tons by the year 2020, end of 2020. So they wanted to take them for themselves 8 full years to repatriate 700 tons, which is really not a very high amount compared to the 3,400 tons we should have in Germany. So that's where we're still standing, and I can go into any details, whatever you would like me to.
Peter, I've got a lot of questions. First of all, help us understand the nature of Germany's central bank. Here in the United States, the U.S. Federal Reserve is extremely powerful institution. Most American citizens assume that it is a government agency. I would say most members of the United States Congress assume that it's a government agency. Very few people understand that the U.S. Federal Reserve is a private corporation. It is not owned or controlled by the United States government. It is a private bank. What is the political makeup of Germany's central bank? Who owns it? Who controls it?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's different and the same. Both. We have both. We have it both. First, I know, of course, the ownership of the Federal Reserve. I mean, it's by now I think it's an established fact that it's a private organization, even though it has the federal in the name. I know the joke that the Fed is as Federal Express.
Right. Yeah. Federal Express has federal too, but it's not owned by the government.
I thought they're a private organization. But anyway, Bundesbank officially is, it's not a private organization. It's not owned by banks as the Fed is. So here, I think you could really say it's a government agency. Having said that, officially and by law, they are independent. But this is really legal speak only. In practice, they have never been independent. Whenever they make profits or losses, when they make profits, they send the money to the German government and to the household here. And if they ever make losses, which rarely happens, then the government is in charge of recapitalizing them. So, in fact, it is a government agency. You cannot put it any differently. It is not independent, even though legally it is. They always claim to be independent when they do not want to take orders from the government, but this always is in sync with the government. So you should not really differentiate the two. So that is a difference to the U.S., where I think you could make a good point that the Fed is actually not a federal or not part of the government.
It's actually here in the here in the United States, it's the United States government is owned by the U.S. Federal Reserve. It's the other way around in our country. They control the government.
I wouldn't put it like that. I know the discussion, and I would probably agree, but you cannot fully compare it.
Yes.
But still, Deutsche Bundesbank is part of the international central banking system, I believe that the executives of Deutsche Bundesbank, follow orders from the Fed as much as they do from the German government, even though they officially would never admit that. Officially, they are completely independent. but especially in the case of gold, they live a culture of do not want to know. They haven't wanted to know. We know that for certain by the Fed where our gold actually is, how it is stored, how it is. The Fed is a custodian for the gold, for the German gold. But still, the owners, the Bundesbank, they never ask the crucial questions to the Fed. We still rely on paper confirmation that all is in order in the Fed's vaults with our gold. A proper audit has never taken place, and I know that since the 1950s, no proper audit has taken place with the American gold as well. But that's true for our custodian gold at the Fed as well. And there's a nice anecdote going back to the 1920s. There was a guy, a predecessor of today's Bundesbank executives, Mr. Hjalmar Schacht, who was the president of the Reichsbank at the time in the 1920s. He visited the New York Gold Vault together with his U.S. colleague Benjamin Strong. And they went in the vault, and Mr. Strong wanted to show to Hjalmar Schacht the German gold, the Weimar gold at the time. And that was not there. It was not to be found. And Mr. Schacht just said to Mr. Strong, and this is official, this is not made up, it's in the memoirs of Mr. Schacht, he told him, Mr. Strong, don't worry, I believe every word without seeing, and even if the gold were not there, you would be good for the replacement. So it's that culture that still lives to this very day, even though we're not talking about Reichsgold today. We're only talking about gold that was accumulated after the war.
Peter, would you describe the BIS in Switzerland, Bank of International Settlements, would you describe it as the mother of all central banks? Is it the bank that oversees all this or most of the Western central banks in the world?
Well, I'm not an expert on that, but that's more or less official, isn't it? The only thing we do not really know is in how far they deal in the daily business or interfere in the daily business of the world central banks. So I don't know the exact hierarchies here, whether the Fed is about the BIS or vice versa. That I don't know. But I know that they're all in the same boat. Actually, Deutsche Bundesbank officially said we took or used the help of the BIS in repatriating the first 5 tons from the U.S., which is just ridiculous. This is really nothing. They repatriated 5 tons in 2013 from New York, and they officially said we needed the help, the logistical help from the BIS. And I mean, that's just crazy. So there is some power at the BIS, and yes, I would agree that they are pretty powerful.
Peter, what is the explanation for the foot dragging by the U.S. Federal Reserve in repatriating Germany's gold? Germany has asked for its gold back, and she said 5 tons shipped in 2013. I'll make fun of them. Is it that at the New York Federal Reserve, they gotta take the secretaries and the various employees, take them off their job, and they got to go into the vaults and package all this gold, and it just it's time consuming, and it's heavy, and they get it's just going to take 8 years. It's going to take 8 years to get all this gold boxed up and shipped to Germany. I mean, what is their official storyline?
As I said, it's sensational that something is moving at all after 50 years, that we managed to bring some of the gold back. But yes, the process is ridiculously slow, and Bundesbank would never say that officially, but they do not want to have it back that quickly. And regarding the Fed, I have to speculate. But, we believe that a fraudulent fractional gold banking system exists in the Fed's vaults, that probably those bars and ounces are, you could say, oversubscribed in inverted commas. There are probably more, for every given bar, there are many owners, and there could be dozens of coins on every ounce in every bar lying in these vaults. So this is the fraudulent scheme, which nobody can prove yet. This is one of the reasons why we would like to see bar lists as an initial attempt to unravel that fractional gold banking system. And if that's not possible, we need the repatriation and a proper audit here in Germany too. The same holds true for other countries. And even though we are not in official contact with those other countries, not with all of them, they too seem to think along the same lines and have started to repatriate. So a race seems to have begun now after 2.5 years into our campaign. Germany, unfortunately, is not getting its gold back pretty quickly, but the Netherlands succeeded. The Swiss, unfortunately, have, for other reasons, not wanted it back. There's a discussion going on in France. Belgium has announced repatriation. Venezuela has already gotten back their gold. There's also a similar campaign in Austria. Poland is repatriating. So this is all completely new. Nothing like that was conceivable was happening before 2012. And this race seems to be gaining momentum now. I don't know how things go on, but the mistrust against the Fed and, well, the Fed as a custodian of gold seems to be there.
Peter, let's try to personalize this, so that everybody can kind of get a concept of what the Fed is saying to Germany. Let's say years ago, you came to me and you said, Rick, I've been buying gold coins for a long time, and I've got boxes and boxes of gold coins. They're all 1 ounce coins. I got about 1,000 1 ounce coins, but I don't have a safe. They're just here in my house, and you got a big safe. Would you store my gold coins? I'll pay you something every year if you keep them in your safe, and then, when I want them back, I'll come and get them, and we do a handshake deal, and you put your gold coins in my safe, and we don't even talk to each other for years. You just send me a check once a month for storing your gold coins in my safe, and everything's fine. You don't ask me any questions. You don't want any photographs of your gold coins. You don't want any audits or anything. You just take my word for it. But then as the years go by, you call me up and you go, hey, Rick, I bought my own safe, and I want my 1,000 gold coins back. So if you could just box them up and send them to me. And I go, oh, sure, Peter, I'll do that. I'll tell you what, here, I'll give you 5 this year. I'll send you 5 coins before the year's over, and I'll get I'll see that you get 200 coins by the year 2020, and then we'll see how it looks after then. What would you say to me? What would you say to me? What would you call me? Would you call me a scoundrel?
This is not in order. This is not good accounting practices. This is not how things should be audited, even in a private setup. Not talking about 100 billion of euro or 130 billion dollars worth of gold, which we're talking about here. Of course, some proper audit had to take place. There are even legal provisions here, but this is really what we say to Bundesbank all the time. You have a duty to, even if we were not around, even if that initiative had not formed, you would have a duty to just do that. And if that's not possible, you cannot just rely on paper confirmation by the Fed.
I know, but, on a personal level, would you get up into my face, nose to nose, and say, hey, let me explain it to you. I want my gold. Open up the vault and give me my gold. You're not going to send me 5 coins per year. I want my gold right now. And if I stalled and stammered and made up excuses, most likely you would say, you're hiding something. What are you hiding? Why are you not giving me my gold? You do have my gold, right? Automatically there would be suspicion that I don't have your gold. So shouldn't Germany?
I couldn't agree more. There are even polls here in Germany asking basically our whether people agree to our demands or not. And in an official internet poll the other day, 82% of people were in favor of repatriation. This is just a natural thing to do. Jim Sinclair the other day, and maybe he's known by our listeners.
Oh, sure.
Jim Sinclair the other day told us there's nothing more natural than keeping one's gold at home and on your own soil. We also have signatures from Dr. Mark Farber, from James Turek, from Bill Murphy, from the former IBM boss of Europe, Middle East, Professor Henkel. We have Jim Rogers as a signature. We have Alistair MacLeod, Ed Steer, Trace Mayer, Jens Coyle, you name them. So it's not only Germans. We did this from the very beginning as an international campaign as well, because it's the same problem everywhere, even though Germany is the single largest holder of gold, who has not the gold on its own soil. So in that makes us a little bit special. But
so, Peter, do you
regardless of that,
do you suspect that the U.S. Federal Reserve does not have Germany's gold in its vault?
I believe they have it. I doubt. I believe they have it physically, but I have a feeling that there are more. That we do not own it exclusively, and that's the reason why we're not getting any bar number lists, because that way we could one day try and tell them, give us this particular bar, and this is never happening. Even those bars that have been repatriated so far, and remember it's just 5 tons so far, but we're getting a little more this year, had to be melted down and recast into other bars with no real plausible explanation. There was an official explanation why this was happening, but it was not credible. So we didn't learn about the bar number list of the destroyed, melted bars, nor did we get any bar number list from the newly cast bars, which are now allegedly in Germany. And this is all very fishy. Who would do that without any witnesses? We have nothing from this process. All we have is the word from Deutsche Bundesbank. That's the way it went. We repatriated that, we melted it down, and we recast it for a blah blah reason.
Okay, but if you and I did this in a private business, and once again, I was say a gold dealer or a gold storage, and I gave you gold bars back that had different serial numbers or no serial numbers. I mean, there would be a criminal investigation. The police would come in. The Financial Criminal Investigation Unit would come in and say, what kind of operation are you running here? And so right. the bank gets away with this.
I'm being asked almost every day by some supporters, can't we sue them, Bundesbank or whomever? But it's really difficult, and there are no legal provisions, even though Bundesbank has to obey the German laws, and I believe they are violating a few of those laws, especially the inventorization law, which we have. But there's no judge, there's no one to accuse them officially, and we have to go the official way, asking questions and complaining in public, which I'm currently doing, because the legal means are restricted.
Okay,
somebody here.
All right, it's been public knowledge now for several years that your organization is pressuring the German bank to get its gold back from the United States. But a few weeks ago, it was totally a surprise announcement that Holland got 131 tons of its gold back. How did Holland get 131 tons when Germany has only managed to get 5 tons back?
I'm answering in a second, but I should add that we're getting back gold this year too. We don't know the numbers yet. We will only know them in 4 or 5 weeks' time. We got back 37 tons in 2013, most of it from Paris and just 5 tons from New York. This time I'm expecting, but this is a guesstimate, not yet confirmed, 70 plus tons. So it's a little more, 70.
But it's coming. It's coming from the Bank of France, right? It's not coming from the U.S.
We don't know. We don't know yet. I have a feeling that something will come from New York too. The statistics that are sometimes quoted in the U.S. media these days are not plausible. It's
okay.
not out of the question. It's not out of the question, even though I know that some people are writing that.
Yeah.
That Germany will get gold from the U.S. too this year. I know that credible and good analysts say the opposite, but let's wait till January and probably February until we know for good. I believe that we will get gold from the Fed as well. But yes, it's too little. That's probably for certain, even though it's 70, maybe a little more tons this year.
Why do you think Holland?
Allegedly, the Dutch have gotten 122 tons, which is great. And the only explanation I have why they got it and why Bundesbank did not get as much and as quickly I have is that the Dutch wanted it, including the central bank. And here in Germany, the German people want it, but Bundesbank is stalling and does not actively promote that process. And that's the main difference, and that's the crucial and decisive factor here.
Well, you know, it's also
your U.S. listeners really have to understand that, because I know there are different articles in the U.S. press. Germany, of course, wants to repatriate. Nobody has stopped repatriating wishes here, and we are the last ones to stop it. But Bundesbank is really our enemy here. We have to fight them. We have to push them. And officially, well, they're not saying a lot, but they're just not proactive here. And obviously, in the Netherlands, they were more proactive.
You know, it's possible, Peter, and this is just me speculating. All right, it's possible. Mm-hmm. It's possible that the reason the Dutch got their 122 tons of gold back so quickly was because they are in possession of the black box from the Malaysian airliner that was shot down over Ukraine. And perhaps the Dutch said, we'll trade the black box to the Federal Reserve in return for our gold. And maybe somebody wanted their hands on that black box because of the information that's in there. But that's just my little mind speculating on why something like that would happen.
Obviously, I cannot confirm.
Right.
Obviously, I cannot confirm it, but it's an interesting coincidence that this happened at the same time. I mean, one also has to ask the question why the black box went from the Ukraine to Holland at all. But that's it.
Right. And then, you know, the whole thing of the gold bars being melted down and the serial numbers disappearing and all that. Well, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, you know, we were told that 99% of the gold reserves of Ukraine disappeared after the Western-backed revolution in Kiev. Where did that gold go?
This was even officially admitted by the Ukrainian government. Obviously, it had to be admitted because the gold is no longer there, so it cannot remain on the balance sheet. So they had to take it off the balance sheet in the latest annual report or quarterly report. So they had to admit it, but there was no plausible explanation who exactly could have taken it. There was a report, I think, half a year ago that the gold was flown out of the country, allegedly because they feared that Putin would conquer Kiev. But, well,
the U.S. Federal Reserve.
So Ukraine is very special because they are not talking about repatriation, but they actually expatriated the gold.
That's funny. I can imagine the U.S. Federal Reserve telling the new Ukrainian government, Putin's going to come here and steal your gold. You give it to us, and we'll take it to New York, and we'll hold it for you. And then they melt it down, and then they give it to Holland because Holland says, where's our gold? I mean, what happened to Muammar Gaddafi's 144 tons of gold? Nobody knows what happened to their gold.
Nobody knows. We never. The world never learned.
No, and what about Milosevic? The former ruler of Yugoslavia. They locked him up in The Hague in solitary confinement. The stories published in the European papers were that he shipped 600 tons of gold out of the country before he was arrested by the United Nations. But he was murdered in The Hague in the prison, died buck naked in solitary confinement. So either they figured out where the gold was at or something, they didn't need him anymore. But nobody's ever found, nobody ever discovered the whereabouts of Yugoslavia's gold. I mean, I'm so cynical about this, Peter. I just believe these guys they're thugs. They're a bunch of, it's worse than the mafia. They are nothing but hooligans and thugs and thieves and and robbers. And I think they're getting caught. I think the game is over. I think it's coming to an end, and the crime of the century is going to be discovered.
Well, personally, I have a lot of sympathy for what you just said. In my official position as a spokesman for this campaign, we are trying to get the gold back, even though it's difficult, even though everything which you just said is true. We are the sovereign here. We are the people. We want the gold back. Bundesbank is in the way, but we're pushing them as hard as we can. As a gold historian, and I mean, we all studied a little bit of gold history too, I can say that with gold, the perfect crimes have always been possible because it can be melted down so easily, no traces where the gold came from, and it's ending up in some vault, and nobody will ever be in a position to prove from where and when it came. So it will be difficult to actually sue here somebody and to bring the gold back to the proper owners, for example, the Ukrainians. But yes, all we can do is try and enforce our claim, our legal right on this gold, 3,400 tons, and if we actually succeed, and it's going to be difficult, then the fractional banking system at the Fed will have, fractional gold banking system at the Fed will have a problem because they have to get this gold back physically from somewhere, which is, by the way, possible. I mean, 3,000 tons a year are being mined every year. So, but if the gold is actually lent over 100 odd times or just a dozen times, which is possible, then 3,400 tons are a lot, and 1,500 of them are lying at the New York Fed for gold.
Peter, what would be the consequences if the world is informed that the gold is not in the Federal Reserve banks? Not just Germany, but even the American gold.
Absolutely, it's a very good question, and of course I also have to speculate, but it's educated guessing. If this actually were to happen, then the fiat money, which the world is flooded with in all sorts of currencies, we have only own-backed currency since 1971. There is no backed currency any longer in circulation. This currency will have problems. Ludwig von Mises, the Austrian economist, proved already 100 years ago, 90 years ago, that fiat money can only exist because people still believe, falsely, that there was or still is some sort of backing behind it. And if people lose the belief that the gold is still, that their money, their fiat money is still backed by something, then confidence goes away, and confidence is everything which today is backing fiat money. So the fraudulent fiat money will have problems unless the central banks can prove that there is at least some potential gold backing behind it. And that's why central gold is so important to the world economy.
Do you think there is a worldwide financial crash on the horizon?
Yeah, well, I was predicting that myself 10 years ago for, I think, 2008. We were wrong because it happened. We had Lehman, we had the financial crisis, we have the ongoing financial crisis since then. For example, the euro is being supported permanently since 2010. Every day the European Central Bank is buying European bonds, especially from the periphery. And without that, the euro would already be history. And of course, the same for the US dollar. Actually, the Fed has been supporting and buying US bonds for even way longer than that. So, yes, the system is a fraud. It's in danger. But I don't know how old you are, Rick, but you probably also believed in that probably decades ago, and it's still alive. So they keep finding ways to support and perpetuate the system. One day it has to end, that's for sure.
I think all of us, because the system did break down in 2008, and I think all of us underestimated how far the bankers would go to prop up a broken system. I mean, none of us imagined that they would dare to print trillions of dollars in euros and in yen, and yet they continue to do it. But in my view, it's prolonging the inevitable crash, but it is also making sure that when the crash comes, it will be far worse than had they allowed it to happen years ago. And I
couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. In 1971, when Nixon closed the gold window, that was the first point when the dollar was actually at an end. The Americans had lived, sorry to say that to an American audience, but the Americans had lived above their means in the 1960s and 70s, and especially the Vietnam War was very costly. So you were in debt, and gold went out of the Fed vaults, and one can calculate today that up until probably 1975, the gold would have been gone completely, and that's why Nixon had to close the gold window in 71. Since then, well, by all sorts of tricks, the world paper monetary system is being supported, and they are going to great lengths. Using criminal means, breaking all economic laws, especially since 2008, prolonging the system. And this is true for both the U.S. and for Europe, and in the meantime also for Japan, absolutely. And even China is starting to print money. At the end of the day, you cannot live on paper. So, and credit has to be paid back or booked out of the system somehow. And this has to happen one day, but I don't know when.
Peter, when it does crash, have you considered the possibility that the devastation would be so great and the pain and suffering so tremendous worldwide that there would actually be a demand by the people in many nations to prosecute the international bankers like we did the Nazis after World War II? That there would be Nuremberg-style financial crimes hearings held. Have you ever considered the possibility that could happen?
Well, I believe the crooks of the elite, of the monetary elite, they are aware of that danger, and learning from history, or if you see what happened in the past, they would rather have a war than facing those consequences.
That's the danger, isn't it?
Nuremberg and the Nazi trials were possible, but only after a lost war. And I mean, who's going to defeat those guys militarily? So I don't believe it's going to be possible to ever sue somebody here. All we can hope for is to end the system, nevertheless, and make sure, as you said, that the devastation in the inevitable end will not be as bad as it will be if we prolong the system forever.
Do you fear that they would start a world war before they allow themselves to get caught?
I hate to say yes, but these days, of course, you cannot wage a war against, for example, Putin, because he has atomic weapons. But the world elite has proven, especially in the last years, that it can conquer countries and territories informally with paid soldiers, not official soldiers, and thereby, below the threshold of a nuclear war, gain territory. And that's what they did. I mean, look at the map of the Soviet Union some 25 years ago, and look where Russia is now. So it is possible without a world war, and I think that's the way they're going to go about it.
Well, we appreciate your time here today. My guest for today's program has been Mr. Peter Barringer. He's the co-founder of Germany's Repatriate Our Gold campaign, and we definitely will be following the future activities of this organization in Germany. Many of us here in the United States very interested in finding out if the U.S. Federal Reserve has Germany's gold and whether they would ever give it up. Peter, thank you so much for being here on True News today.
And thank you, Rick, for having me. Goodbye.
All right, and I want to thank you for being here today and